the RPG Maker General Podcast, or the rpgmgp. It's the cheesy intro clearance sale, and everything must go! Hello everyone, and welcome to the RPG Maker General Podcast, or the rpgmgp. This is Cody, aka Marpix, and with me today are the Red Mage.
Hello, hello.
And Blue Sky Robin.
Hey!
Hey! We're gonna talk about Yanfly's new comic. It's called Let's Make a Town! It's his astonishing sequel to Let's Make a Game and Let's Make a Dungeon. This time going over how to design a town for your RPG. Yanfly has a system and he wants you to go by 4 principles, which he calls the 4 Ps. Purpose, peace, progress, and people. So long and short of those, purpose basically being if you have like a trading town, you know, it should probably be near a harbor because that's where all the ships come in and out. A mining town would be in the mountains, of course. So both the town and your map are dependent on each other that way. Peace, basically being a town is for rest, a town is for the player to take a break. They're not going to have any real big engagements or any stressful actions occurring at most towns. Progress, most towns should be there to advance the plot in some way or the character's progression. And then people, who the hell is in this thing?
Fair enough. Yeah. But no, I mean, it's a kind of a very simple tenet, but it makes a lot of sense to just kind of do it in that fashion. And then, I mean, if you watch the video or read the comic. I watched the video because I'm lazy. But basically, what it comes down to, like, because while I was doing that, the first thing I had in mind was as soon as like got to the points where you put down the inn because it's the first thing that people want to see. I like flashbacked all the way to Final Fantasy 1, and like basically in every single town you come in, the inn is literally the first building that you come across. And I was like, huh, I never actually like realized that, but that makes a lot of sense now that I think about it.
Yeah, it's brilliant because, like he says in the comic, you know, most hotels are kind of on the outskirts of town. You know, you're driving across the freeway and there's the inn. But also from a player standpoint, if they're just, you know, going out and leveling and all they really need is to get their HP and MP restored, you just waltz in real quick, get it done, and leave, as opposed to having to wander around the whole town trying to find the one simple action you're looking for.
Right. And then two, and this is also going back to FF1, because I mean, it's a pretty basic town, and it, you know, serves its function, but then you can also change stuff up with that formula at a later time just to kind of not freak out the player, but just kind of bring more intrigue, because in Final Fantasy 1, once you get to Melmond, which is the town near the where the vampire's at, you go in. I mean, you do still see the inn first, but everything is torn to shit, and then the revive building is busted, and you can't use it. So you're kind of like just playing with the player's expectations a little bit to achieve an effect in the game.
Yeah.
So
Yanfly also makes it a point to like really understand that great towns are not like huge fucking 7-screen size messes, okay? Don't do that. That's fucking, don't do that unless there's a really good reason you're doing that.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, because for me, seeing them, like when people post a big, nice, sprawling town, I'm like, that looks nice. I would never want to play in that town in-game because that is a nightmare to navigate, but that looks nice.
Yeah, it's funny that you brought up the big-ass towns, because every time I hear big-ass town, I get reminded of Saffron City from Pokemon Red and Blue. And Saffron City is about 9 screens big, maybe even bigger than that. But it has a very simple road system. So you're either like in the North Street, the Middle Street, or the South Street. And it has a lot of good landmarks, but the most important thing about Saffron City is that many of the buildings don't have doors. Even if a building is just like a basic building, you still know kind of where you are by which buildings have doors, and they haven't complicated your life by making every building enterable.
That's true. Something like that in games, I'm both kind of for and against, because I kind of feel like if there's a building there, you should be able to just kind of go in and look around. But I'm also cool with just it's locked, too. Because people don't just leave their doors open all the time. At least I don't. Even when I'm home and lock the door.
I think it also helps with Pokemon, at least, like, you see a building and you don't see the door. Well, that's because you're always looking at the south end of every building.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I actually bring that up in Defeat the Darkness.
Yeah, I mean, outside of, I guess it works still for towns and networks. I kind of like side entrances and top entrances and that kind of thing, but it's also really kind of annoying too, because they do it in, well, I don't know if they did in the original, honestly, because I haven't played the original, but in Dragon Quest IV on the iOS port, there's entrances like on the left and the right and the top. But you can like rotate the map and shit, and it's just, I like it, but it overcomplicates what the town should be. Because then you've got to turn stuff around to find out how to get into buildings. Just put it all front facing. Just let me go in. I don't care that it looks nicer. It's less functional.
So kind of like a Link Between Worlds, but even more difficult.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, damn.
Watch the next RPG maker have like a camera rotate function.
Oh, God. I really liked certain Zelda games would have side entrances and back entrances, but they'd mark them with like a carpet or something so you'd know. I think, because I talked about this almost a year ago, Final Fantasy VI had side entrances, and they had to make so many big, weird graphical elements to make the side entrances work, but boy howdy did it get my design boner going.
Yeah, because you had to take those elevated sideways stairs to get to these sideways entrances.
To these sideways caves.
It's true. Yeah, the sideways caves were really cool. They had those, like, everywhere.
Yeah, I love that. Another thing that Yanfly brings up is the concept of a town square. So just like in real towns, there's a spot usually in the middle that you can use as a point of reference. So you can go, okay, I'm in the middle. If I go north, I'm here. If I go east, I'm here. If I go south, I'm here. I think that's an important tenet to take away, because when you have big, sprawling cities, you need to be able to send the player where they need to go in a relatively fast fashion. If they have to take more than 2 turns to get where they're going, you need to reconsider your map design.
Yep. The only time that and I still don't like it, but I will accept it, is if it, kind of like we said, like with Saffron City, if it's a big, crowded town, and it's meant to be that way, like something kind of like, I guess like Midgar, Final Fantasy VII, just, or that one town in Final Fantasy Legend where you get the bike for the first time. But just where, like, everything is kind of all compacted and stuck together because it's supposed to be. It works, but you should still try to make it as simple as you can, even if it's supposed to be complicated.
Yeah. There's a point where you have realistic complication, and as we all know, realism isn't always fun. So you have to present it as a big, bustling, complex city without actually making the player go through it like it is a complex city.
And you have to go and get on a bus and wait for the train and thanks.
Didn't Bravely Default fix this problem for some reason? Like, they turned this huge sprawling city into a menu, and that basically fixed it.
No, you could wander around their towns, but they were all like, they did like the fancy like hand painted thing, if I remember right. So like everything looked really impressive, but all the entrances were marked with little arrows, so you knew what you could go into and what you couldn't. So it's vastly simplified what it was. But with that point, menu towns, I'm kind of for it. It kind of really depends on the game, because they work super, super well in Etrian Odyssey, because the game isn't about exploring the towns, but exploring everything else. So when you go in, you just pick a couple things from the menu, do what you want to do, and then you leave, and then you're done, and it works in that fashion. It just kind of depends on how you want the game, because that's a very mechanics-oriented game anyway. Nobody really cares too much about the fluff and everything else. At least I don't when I play the games. So.
Yeah,
right.
And it works in the context of Etrian Odyssey because you're dealing with the shopkeepers. Like, you're basically only dealing with the shopkeepers, which makes it seem more personal. And also, because you have such a large party, you got 6 people, it aids your imagination when you don't actually see them, go to the inn, because you get to imagine what they're doing there. And then you get to write your fanfic later.
Exactly.
As opposed to being shown some kind of simple generic animation or text box, on the screen. Yeah.
They walk over, they split into 6 people, going to 6 different beds. The only 6 beds that are there. What would you do if someone else is staying there that night? People are gonna have to double up.
That's why they're paying in gold, Red Mage.
Oh, okay. So we're that airline.
We're paying you in
now,
gold coins. We're taking the entire inn for the night. Okay, bye.
Kicking people out that have previously paid because these are our highest paying customers.
They pay 1 GP for every HP. And they have a lot of HP.
Oh, man.
That's what I loved about Final Fantasy Legend. You know, not only was it the simple Game Boy hardware that kept them from doing anything dumb with the inn system, but literally, like, you just hit yes, and then, hey, you're healed. Hooray!
Fuck the inns there, though. Me, as my human party, would chug potions all day, every day. And be fully healed that way.
See, with my mutant team, though, I would totally use them because even if someone was down to, like, 2 HP and it cost me 2 gold to use it, if I did, all of everybody's spells were fully healed. But what's really annoying... Yeah, what's annoying... is if you didn't have anybody that was hurt, but your spells were down, you couldn't, like, use the inn to heal. You had to, like, go and, like, get hit and then come back. It's just really stupid.
It must be real stressful for you.
Oh, God. You should really play FFL2, Red Mage, because everyone should have 1 mutant in their party. 1, you can keep spells in FFL2, and number 2, you learn Cure in the first world. You will eventually learn Cure in the first world. It will randomly come to you at some point. So you can cure everybody... Stay for, 12 gold, and then your monster, your robot, and your mutant all get their abilities back.
Nice. Yeah, I'm going to have to jump on that, because right now at work I'm starting to get bored again. I tried to play, and this is not even an RPG, Nobunaga's Ambition 2 for the Super Nintendo, because that's, like, one of my favorite strategy games of all time, but even that can't really, like, keep my interest because it's so fucking slow. So maybe I'll go back and finish FFL 1 and then start on 2.
Awesome.
All right. Anyway, let's get to the topic here before I delve even further off the beaten course.
All right. Let's keep the bicycle upright. So today's theme is items. This ended up being a much larger subject than we had anticipated, but it generated a lot of discussion on rpgmg, and we ended up with a buttload of notes. Obviously, items are everything your party carries. It could be quest items, it could be healing items, attack items, your equipment too, technically, crafting elements if your game has that. But one thing about items is that they're always in one fucking menu, and Pokemon only finally got over this by having, like, your key items in one, your Pokeballs in another, your healing in another. We're going to get to that in a bit. We want to start very specifically with healing items, because every game has them. Now, there's a couple things about healing items. 1 is healing, and 2 is the economics. Now, in Final Fantasy Legend, like what we all played, and Robin was just talking about, you get 3 potions for 50 gold, I believe, and because the inn costs 1 gold for every HP restored, technically buying potions is cheaper than staying at the inn. So the economics of that are kind of busted. The other side of that coin is if you go with a percentage-based healing, then if you have a potion that heals 15% of your HP, and your party starts with 30 HP, they're getting like 5 back, so those potions are useless at the beginning of the game and only moderately useful at the end. Yeah, so do you guys... Right. Do y'all like percentage-based, or do you like flat healing? Which one and why?
For me, it depends on, like, a bunch of different factors. Mostly the scope of the game. If you max out at, like, 99 or 999 hit points, for example, percentage healing is kind of stupid to have. just because of the numbers. I know percents work the same regardless across the board, but it's just kind of easier to run with a flat number system with that. But generally speaking, I would prefer to run both. Normally what I try to do is have percentage-based healing only usable outside of combat. Percentage-based healing would be like food, things that you could consume safely over time. but you can't, like, stuff a pizza into your mouth mid-combat and get back 80 hit points. So, like, in-battle items are like the potions, tonics, super potions, whatever you want to call them, that have a flat rate of healing. So they are more limited, but the out-of-battle healing you can keep with you, between encounters kind of thing is the idea.
Okay, so the food would be like, economically, it would be cheaper to have a pizza with you instead of a potion, and it would heal you for more, but because of the time it would take to eat, it would take longer than a turn, so you can't use it in battle.
Exactly.
Because a goblin isn't just going to sit there and let you eat your pizza.
Yeah, turn-based or not, they're going to be like, hey man, I want some of that pizza. Of course, that's just a whole new weird mechanic. You eat a monster's favorite food, and they then go into a rage if you eat it in front of them.
Oh,
that's terrible.
Isn't that like a Shin Megami Tensei thing?
Probably. But that's kind of my take. I prefer to have both with different uses of each. If I had to choose one or the other, it would be flat over percentage.
Okay.
For me, if the percentage one is like 50% and up, I'd prefer that usually. But like anything lower than that is like really lame for me.
Yep.
I mean, it's so dumb. It's like if you're high level and you have like 1 billion HP and you're only healing like 10% of your life, what the fuck are you even doing?
So the way encounters are balanced, like any sort of low percentage healing just isn't worth it.
Like, in my opinion, right? It's like, oh boy. It's like, yeah, I played some games where it has both the flat healing and the percent healing, but like some games just have percent healing and really, really low. And it's not even the kind of consumables that you can just buy no problem at the store or whatever.
Yeah, and other things too. That I just realized that bothered me about percentage healings, and this is like thematically. All right, you've got your big, burly, buff and stuff warrior who's got like 1,000 hit points, and then you've got your frail little lolly girl mage who has 200 hit points. Why does the apple, for example, or the percentage-based healing work so much better on the fighter than it does on the girl?
The fighter has a lot of constitution.
Yeah, he has a better physique and he digests, the medicine better. Yeah, I don't know, just stuff like that. Just I don't know.
Well, how come in Team Fortress 2, when a heavy picks up a large health pack, he gets 150 HP, but a scout only gets 65, 65? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I've got the same beef with that. But I mean, arguably, also realistically, medicine should affect everybody at the same air quotes rate. So I don't know. I guess there's arguments for each side. I don't know.
Yeah, you don't get to tell Heavy how much HP his sandwich heals. God. The way Final Fantasy Legend 3 did it, because they're the only example I can think of off the top of my head that uses percentage-based. They have 3 different tiers of Cure Spell, and one cures 33%, one cures 66%, and then the last one is 100%. And the way the game is balanced around that, because the cost of the Cure Spells never goes up, they introduce a new tier, which is curing everybody at once, and in a 5-person party, you want everyone to be cured.
Right.
So they introduce that tier, and then they also make those very necessary, because around the halfway point in the game, everyone's going to be getting hit with attacks, and so you have to use these very expensive cure-all spells unless you want your party dropping like flies.
That's fair. And that's one thing I guess I hadn't really touched on is like, area healing with items versus singular healing, because for the most part, aside from things like Mega Elixirs, I think in Chrono Trigger there's one too that heals like everybody for 200, I remember right, but there's not a lot of like AoE healing in items.
Mm-mm.
For the most part, which is another thing that especially late game, that makes your healing caster people more useful, because if everybody's taking hit, you don't want to like waste a turn with everybody using an item on themselves, and then the boss just does it again, and then you're like, well, shit.
Yeah.
Yep. Just another reason why the healers in the party are like way more useful than items.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
Yeah. I know Lufia, the Legend Returns, had Goddess Tears, which restored HP to everybody, but you also had a 9-person party, so that was kind of important. But every other, like, restore the party item is one of those super awesome items that you can't, like, ever buy. Yeah. Like the Kiro Kiro Cola in Super Mario RPG. Like, if you find one of those things, it's going to fully restore everybody, but you're not going to find you don't get to buy those. You don't get to walk up to Smithy with, like, a full pouch of those things.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so...
Maybe they did just find the vending machine.
The Karo vending machine.
Yeah. So I want to talk about that for a second, though. Like, why are these items in the game? No player ever uses them because by the time they would think to use them, they already have, their high tier spells and their other ways of mitigation that they don't have to use them. So I had a theory because we've had 2 weeks to mull this over. I thought of possibly you have, your Kira Cola or whatever, and you can have up to 3. And there'll be, like, chests and bookshelves and other places that will have one unless you have 3. And then it gives you some other random BS item. So you can use them because you're always guaranteed to get back up to 3, but you'll never get more because that would break the game.
That would be a really interesting way to do it. Especially if you... I mean, once you get, like, down into, like, the logistics and that kind of thing of it, like, if you are trying to, like, speed run a game, for example, what is what is more important to pick up, the cola or, the item that it gives you instead? Yeah. So stuff like that would be kind of interesting from both just a general gameplay standpoint and then, like, a deep mechanic standpoint as far as trying to figure out which way to go. So that's actually a really elegant solution, and I like it.
Thank you.
But
I don't know, because, like, if it has to be like that, then the player has to be aware that that's a thing. Because, like, maybe they'll just keep picking up, like, more than 3 Kero Colas or whatever, and they'll not notice that they've been getting random garbage.
Well, that's the thing, though, is, like, you don't tell the player that if they're at 3, that this drawer will not have a Kero Cola in it, it'll have 1,000 gold, or it'll have, like, a crappy sword or something. But you establish to the player, hey, feel free to use these, we got you taken care of. And then at the end of the game, if you really, really want to, and you chose not to search these 67 chests of drawers, you'll have more for the bosses you're going to fight.
Huh.
Yeah, it'd be one of those things where there should be some... I'm trying to think of, like, a way to do it, like, in like, a game lore without going, like, Mother style and being really tongue-in-cheek about it. As far as just letting the player know, you can only have 3. If you find another one, something strange will happen.
I know an easy way to fix this. Just have an item cap, and then it'll have, like, Kero Colas out of 3. There, 3's your max.
Or how about this? Like, they're powerful, but feel free to use them. You'll usually find more. Just don't get greedy.
Yeah, something along those lines that just kind of, like, hints at, like, how it's supposed to work. That would be fine, and then smart players will put it together. Dumb players will either just not use them or be pleasantly surprised that there's always, like, a fairly constant supply.
Just give it, like, Dark Souls item descriptions. Like, there can only be 3 existing in a backpack at once.
Any more of the universe shall unmake itself.
This is the holy trinity of Kero Cola. But I use Mega Elixirs. The items that I hold on to for no particular reason, because I use the rare stuff if I need to. I will always keep 1, so, like, if I'm fighting a boss and I'm getting my ass kicked and I have 2 Mega Elixirs, I'll use 1, but I will never use my last one until the final boss. But I hang on to stat boosters, and I don't know why. Like, I'm playing what RPG Maker game am I playing? I think it's Deadly Sin. Still, yeah. I've got, like, a bunch, like 10 to 12 of, like, each stat boosting item. I'm just not using them. And I don't know why. I do this in every game that I play, too.
None
you would
of
think
you
that I would,
are
like,
worthy.
buff up the main character, or... I don't know. Dragon Quest made it easy because I had one character. So I was like, okay, well, I have to use it on him. There's no reason not to. But when I get more than one character, I'm like, ooh, can't use them.
Is it a fear that they're going to leave the party, or is it that they are just simply not worthy?
It's more of the fact that, okay, because as I'm sure you all are aware, red maging is what I do. So I would never give strength tabs, for example, to like the strongest guy in the party. I would give them to someone else who attacks but doesn't do as much damage, to kind of keep everybody at about the same level. But I can never tell if somebody's going to get stats that will do something more, you know, to like get like later in the game, like they get a skill, or this character is the only one who gets this special set of daggers that lets him, you know, attack twice in a turn, so his damage is increased by 100% at this point in the game. So I like to keep everybody similar if they can be. So that's like the main reason I don't do it.
All right.
But like stuff like Chrono Trigger did it right, where if you've got Chrono with max strength, with the Prism specs, who's got 70% crit rate, and the Rainbow Blade, so his crit damage increased by 50%, and he crits, he still only does like 2,000 damage. Like it's not, you know, it's not game breaking at that point. So I don't care, whatever.
I have a love and hate relationship with stat boosters. I think that one game, that one obscure game we've all kind of played, Pokemon, they did it pretty well.
Yeah.
Where you can apply 10 of each stat booster to each stat on each Pokemon. So they are freely available, you throw them on, and if you have them, great. Whereas every other game runs this very delicate balancing act of, oh god, if we make them too available, they're going to break the game, or we make them worthless. You know, because, like, if your character has 93 attack, what's plus 2? What,
right.
Like, and then, oh no, you left 10 of these in the world. Oh no, they're going to go up by plus 20, and they're going to be a little bit unfair. Oh no, heaven forbid someone figure that shit out.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, you do have to balance for that as a developer, because there are so many kids, and some that aren't even kids, who put them all on their favorite, you know, no matter what.
Yep, and that favorite becomes crazy powerful. And another cool thing about the way that Pokemon does it, and Robin, I'm sure you know too, with all the breeding and stuff that you did with it, but with the fact that all they do is they increase the effort value of the Pokemon, which you can just get from fighting enemies anyway. So it's the same resource, just tied to two different mechanics. So they're not even necessary. Your stats will increase on their own just based on the enemies that you fight, or you can use the stat boosters to get just a quick fix. Yep, exactly. So it's even more contained than it seems like with Pokemon. But a limit would be a really cool way of doing it, as far as just how many you can provide to each person, like 5 or 10, for example. That would be another elegant solution brought to you by Cody.
God.
Yeah, having like a clear limitation on how much you can buff a stat is like really helps with permanent stat buffs. Because like I think at least Persona 3, because that's the one I played. Persona 3 did it, and like all the Persona stats cap at 40 or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. They cap at 40, and then all the higher level ones, all the higher level personas that you get have more of their stats filled up. So you're like, okay, I don't need to spend the plus stat items on this one, because I'm just going to change it later on for a stronger one.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was going to suggest too, is doing it like I was gonna say not Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne, but I mean it's the same system. They're all SMT games. And yeah, your stats cap at a relatively low number. I think it's like 40, 50, or 60. It's a very small number, because then even when you have maximum strength, you hit pretty hard, but you don't hit game-breakingly hard.
Okay. And it's probably like FFT in the sense where Those stats may be like that, but they can be boosted in battle to go even higher?
I think so.
Yeah. Because in those games, like, in-game stat boosting is crazy. Shoutouts to all the guys raging at Matador.
Fuck Matador. He's a Nocturne too, and he's just as much of an asshole.
Nocturne that stat buffs are really strong.
Yes. But yeah, Nocturne is another interesting thing about it too, which is not really anything to do with items, but just an interesting aside that you have a party of 4, but if your main character dies, you lose. So if you don't make them tanky, you're gonna run into problems. So I ran into problems the first time I played. The second time I played, I just dumped every point into Vitality. No problem.
God. I wanted to talk about that for the party composition cast, where, like, in Penny Arcade's Rain Slick Precipice of Darkness, which is a very long title, please shoot me, Gabe is your primary damage dealer, and the final boss battles, like, the whole last 2 hours of the game is every boss stunning or trying to kill Gabe, and that's it. Because he does, like, triple the damage Tycho and your character do. So as long as the bosses keep messing with him, you basically can't kill the boss.
Right. Yeah. See, now, I'm bringing this up, like, unironically, and on all seriousness, Windsor's Jack and Joey Get It Together. Jack being the main character, if he went down, the game was over. But he was like the worst character on your team. So like it was his friends kind of like supporting him through this journey of his. But like if he went down, all his friends were like, because it's over, and they'll just it's just a very. That was one of the things I really did like about the game. It was a very small thing, but yeah, if he ever goes down, you game over, and he's the weakest of everybody. So you have to like protect the main character.
Yep.
Yeah, because so many people just love escort quests, right?
Yeah. I don't. But...
no, they suck, but it works for the tiny game that it is. Like.
Yeah, it does.
Back to stat boosters real quick.
Yeah, back to items.
I kind of borrowed that stat booster idea from Phantasy Star Online, because with Phantasy Star Online, you are limited at 100 stat boosts. And you can apply them anywhere you want, but you can only put 100 of them on your character. And the way they balance this is like the Newmans, which are like the mutants in PSO, I think they can have 100, but humans can have 200. So depending on which race you pick, that determines how many stat boosts you can use. And then the proper meta is to max out your luck, which will take, I think, like 40 or 50 of the boosts, because that increases your crits and your item find, and then you take the rest of them and you apply them wherever you want. And because the meta says put 50 into luck, then the Newmans only have 50 stat boosts to put other places, and the humans have 150 that they can move around.
Right. That's interesting. I don't normally see a game where they're like, luck is important enough that you need to max this out first. But then again, I guess it's kind of like a farming thing too, because you have to find gear. So
it's basically Diablo, yeah.
That's fair, because I remember I did have in Diablo 2, I did have a greed set for going out and farming stuff, which was just increased drops of magical and stuff items. So okay, I guess that makes sense. I'll agree with it for now. But so basically what we're coming down to here, if you have stat boosters in your game, either make them worthwhile enough, both make them worthwhile enough to use, but also limit them in some way. Is kind of the takeaway I think that all three of us are on board with at the moment.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, like, those are still better than how FF8 did it. You know how you got stat boosters in FF8?
Yeah, by not using magic.
Really?
That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, you had to devour the fucking monsters. And not just any monster. It has to be specific monsters.
Well, yeah. Well, the other way you get stats though too is you junction spells to your stats. But as you use the magic, that lowers the number you have stocked, which lowers the stat boost. So
Yeah.
you just get a bunch of magic, you never use it, and you just punch people to death because you're Zell and he's the best character.
Yeah, there's that, but I'm talking about like using Devour to get permanent stat boosts.
Yeah. Which I never
Even
did.
if Adamantoise gives you +1 defense. You know how rare those fucking things are? Jeez.
Hey, bro.
Anyway, yeah.
Bro.
That's it.
Defending with a shield in FFL2 gives you a 1 in 256 chance of increasing your defense. You have any fucking idea how rare that is? It's about 1 in 256.
Well, Cody, I heard you won the lottery with that, so good job.
Yeah, on my, 8th playthrough.
Oh, boy.
So, one more thing on curatives before we move on to the next thing. So, again, that popular game, Pokemon, it has an item called Ether, which restores your PP, which is your power points, not anything else. I walked right into that one. God. It restores...
You shot yourself in the foot.
It restores the Pokemon equivalent to spell charges so that you can keep using one Pokemon, especially for those large sets of battles like the Elite Four.
Yeah.
You also have, in old school Dragon Quest, and probably in the modern ones, I haven't played them, where you have a Wizard Ring which restores MP, but then it crumbles, and you can't buy those. So, Magic used to be, in the mainstream, very limited, so that people would have an incentive to use items. So what are your guys' opinion on MP restores and using magic to heal yourself versus going into items?
See, I have a... It depends on game. Again, for me, a lot of it always depends on the game composition, because I like it in one of two ways. One, where one is more effective outside of battle and the other is more effective inside of battle. Or... they're different. They're better in different scenarios. Because like we were talking about earlier, if you have very powerful single target healing items, but your healer's the only person who can AoE heal, that provides then a situation where, okay, cool. They, depending on what the situation calls for, you have two different things that would be more effective in the given time. Especially if, coming back to the MP restoratives, MP is not something that you can just be like, well, I've got 99 ethers, so I'm just going to go ham with the heals. It's not a big deal. But on the other hand, having it so items are the only thing that do straight healing, and then healers have things like regeneration or, shields and prevents and that kind of thing too. So they're never actually straight healing you, and items are the only straight heal. Which I don't remember what RPG Maker game I played that did this, but they did it and it was cool. But it's just another way to do it. If they're both fulfilling the same role, items are basically useless.
Yeah.
Because, as one of my friends put it before, if you have 100 MP, heal costs 5, you have 20 heals, and that's worth, for example, 20 heal 1s. You're saving 20 times the cost of heal 1 by depleting their MP gauge and sleeping at an inn, rather than using items. You're saving money by using a renewable resource.
Yeah. I would also say that because you're using the MP bar instead of items, you're saving yourself a trip to the shop to buy 20 healing potions.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And you're saving yourself all the time you have to spend wandering through your items and your sticks and your old swords and your grenades to find those potions to use them on the people.
Holy shit! Yeah, that's a big problem with these things, because no one wants to go to a store to restock on items all the time, every trip they go out, right?
Yeah.
They'd rather sleep at the inn because it's more convenient or whatever. It's right at the town entrance too, so
Yeah, there was an idea I had for a game at one point, kind of based on, I think it's a Star Ocean game where when you go into towns, people just kind of separate and do their own thing. There was some person on there that you could designate to be the shopper. So whenever you went into town, if you had 20 or less than 20 potions, whenever they came back to your group, as long as you had enough money, you now had 20 potions. So you didn't have to go and do it. Someone on your team was doing it for you.
Nice.
That was kind of an idea that I had. I never got around to implementing, but it's something I was actually working on for...
that's a good idea, Red Mage.
Thanks.
That's super good. I know another game that does something kind of like that. It's called Monster Hunter. I mean, like the latest one. Okay, because the way they do it is like your item box has like 1 billion items, but you can only carry like 10 potions, 10 good potions, and like that. When you're done with your quest, you go to your item box. You can just select an item set, and that has all the stuff you want to bring ready. You just get your item set, and your entire backpack is all sorted. That's it.
That's also really cool.
Yeah, if your stock is like short, like you don't have enough potions, well, then you better watch out because it's not gonna tell you too much other than show you, hey, this isn't maxed out. Okay, bye.
Right. Yeah, no, that was something I was working on for the game that I was working on a while ago, which I thought I lost and then I found again, and I've been slowly just kind of picking at it, but haven't made a whole lot of progress. But it's basically, currently it's called Paradox of Creation because of the fact that I'm using the Pokemon Essentials battle system, completely gutted, rebuilt up, and it's not a Pokemon game, it's a standard RPG, where you've like characters just go into one-on-one battles, but you have your party of 6 people, and I wanted them to all do like different things. There's different conversation options, there's different friendships that'll form. Like, I wanted to take that party dynamic that's already in Pokemon and make it even like crazier is what I was looking for. Because the thought I had was stuff like, you know, for the shopper, for example, if you go to like the town that they're from, they get like, you know, 20% discount. Or, you know, just things like that. So no matter who you assign to what different roles in your party, everybody was useful in their own way and could surprise you with things here and there. So.
Oh, nice.
You're not just going to give them all, like, Leer and Stand Attack or something?
No, there's still, I think there's 10, no, there's 8. I think there's 8 different elements that are set up on it. And I'll have Cody throw a current link to the current build if anybody wants to play it for the cast. But, yeah, basically it's just a pretty generic system with all new types, all new attacks, and that kind of thing. And everybody's got different specializations, just kind of depending on who they are. There's, like, you start out with Starla, who is like a starlet. She sings, but she's kind of a bitch. And then Alan, who is like a former jail guard and kind of an asshole. So he's kind of more of like the fighter type, and he starts, I think, at like level 3, and so he starts at level 1. So you kind of have to use that Pokemon thing to send Starla out, call her back, send out Alan, you know, to kind of level her up to give her that experience. Yeah, you play as like an innkeeper, which is the only thing that survived this massive catastrophic event. So you've got to try to like figure out what happened to the world and put everything back together with the 6 people that are staying at your inn. And then, of course, you'll get more as the game goes on. But it just lets me do fun stuff, too, with it. Like, because in Pokemon, I'm getting way off topic from items, I'm sorry. But with like, bosses, because in Pokemon, they've got to follow the same rules as your characters do. Because you could potentially catch it and use it.
Yeah.
I don't do that. I don't play that.
Oh.
Yeah, no, bosses can be immune to all status effects, and also all stat debuffs, and also their attack increases every round. You know, I can do all of that by just combining what all the abilities do onto one ability. So. Now,
will you ever fight 2 things at once?
For the Pokemon Essentials for MXP, there is scripts for double battles. I hadn't gotten around to like looking at it yet because the dude that runs that has like put out like 4 separate updates since I stopped working on my game last. So having to update everything is going to be a huge pain in the ass. But there are double battles, and 1v2 and 2v2 is something I definitely wanted to do because I think it's either Starla or one of the other characters has a heal. And I want to be able to heal the other person so you can actually have like the fighter white mage combo fighting together.
Nice.
All right, that's enough me gushing about my game. Let's move on.
Okay, all right. You're going to be gushing here in a second, but we'll get to you.
Okay.
Since we've now talked about healing items, I want to talk about attack items. And first off, you know, there are games, like, I know Final Fantasy Legend 3 does this, where you can buy, like, grenades. You straight up buy explosives, and you throw them and they do damage. I like them more as, you know, them doing their own thing as opposed to being replacements for spells. Like, instead of, like, a grenade, you know, casting fire, like, a grenade is its own thing. But the economics of it are really odd, because if a grenade does fixed damage, and it's relatively cheap, it's going to be overpowered when you first buy them, and completely useless when you still have 50 left over from when they were overpowered.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And then there's still the question of going to an item shop and buying a shit ton of grenades, and then instead of using attack, which is fairly simple, you have to go to your item menu, use grenade, on goblin, you know, over and over again.
Yeah.
So can you guys think of a better way to do attack items, or should it just be something you equip that has an ammo count?
That's not a bad idea too. I was just gonna say, because especially with RPG Maker, it's pretty easy to, you know, tie grenade to a grenade skill and just have it scale off of your own damage. Probably like with a higher base and then like a lower progressive boost, so it will never like outpace your physical attack. But when you get them, they're still relevant and usable. But like your mage, for example, who has very little strength, will still be able to do some damage with it. Your fighter still might be able to do more with their, you know, Guntana, depending on your setting.
But if the grenades are weaker than your standard attack, then they become useless. Because, you know...
Eventually, yeah.
Well, no. They shouldn't ever become completely useless eventually, because you spent good money on those grenades. You spent a lot of time buying those grenades. And yes, your sword did cost 12,000 gold, but my issue is, eventually it'll be outclassed. And do you sell all your grenades at that point, just like you would sell your old sword, or do you hold on to them and pray they'll become relevant again?
Cloud, we have to blow up the reactor. Get 50 grenades.
See, I can definitely see where you're coming from on that. Because having it scale would work, but having it be just slightly more powerful than your basic attack would make sense. But, you know, then it kind of, I mean, I guess it works. If it replaces your basic attack, it's still it's still a consumable. You still have to buy more. So something like that would work. Or just when they're about to become irrelevant, add in, you know, like the pharmacology character that deals twice as much damage with items. And suddenly that becomes their main method of damage.
So you can...
As it falls off for everybody else.
So you combine grenade with fire. Now you have fire grenades, and off you go.
Exactly.
Or you combine grenade with potion, and then you have potion grenades, and you heal the whole party without a white mage.
See, I'm okay with that kind of setup if you don't already have a white mage. If alchemists are good replacements for white mages, see Final Fantasy X too. Continue.
Oh boy.
Oh no, basically, yeah. I mean, it comes down to, depending on how the pacing of the game goes, what your scale is. Because if you're at, again, like I said before, like if you're capping out at 999 hit points, you know, your basic attacks are doing like 50 and a grenade is doing 60. That's a pretty significant margin. If you max out at 99,999 hit points, your basic attacks do 2,500 and your grenade does 2,600. You're not going to waste the time using a grenade.
No.
So it's just kind of dependent on the game, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, it really depends on the game. I'd like to bring up the Atelier games because they're all about alchemists, so items are a big deal in those games.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? The best person who can use items are the alchemists, because they usually have all the goddamn skills related to items. I remember one of the skills was just increase area. And you know what that does? That turns your single target heal into basically a party heal. The alchemist usually has all the item related boosts. And, you know, it's an alchemy game, so I can understand that. And then there's a lot of items and all that bullshit. But you know what? Because of how the game is, people tend to forget that all the other characters can use items too. Because they don't have any of the specialized skills for it.
Right.
Yeah, I think the Atelier games get a special pass because it's all about the menuing. So what's a little menuing in combat when you've already sat through 6 billion crafting menus?
That's
yeah.
true. Yeah, but I was gonna say, kind of just bouncing off that. Having an alchemist character is a good way to keep items relevant, especially if they can mix, or even like just the base value of all the damages and healing is just doubled. Even if it's not like a massive boost, they can still be relevant with those items that were about to go, extinct basically from your menu.
Knife, gun,
knife,
gun.
If only there was a way to convert like really useless items in your item menu into something more useful, like maybe bigger potions or bigger bombs or something like that. If only there was a way. Oh well, what's the next topic?
Yeah, well, we're trying to save crafting for another day. As all the
I was trying to skip that, Cody.
No, another day. But I do agree with trying to make old items more relevant, especially when you have healing items that give a flat percentage, or sorry, a flat amount. Wow, good job, Cody.
A flat percentage.
Yeah, we're having both today. Because you have in a lot of MMOs, you have like in Guild Wars items that literally exist to be sold, like they're junk.
Yep.
I think. You could do something with an alchemist character where you just keep merging crap you don't need into better crap you don't need until you get something usable. And it would be capped by, if you go to a store, you're at a brand new town and you buy the best potions there and your alchemist mixes two of the best potions you can find together, you get the next town's potion. So it's always balanced that way. You can also do what the ninja does in Final Fantasy Tactics, where he throws all your old weapons at enemies for massive damage.
It's true.
Yeah, just throw all these Excaliburs at the enemy.
I mean, you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not gonna get into crafting, but a way that I'm trying to remember the name of this. I think it's Fairy Fencer F does it. Basically, just at town, you can take 5 of one tier of item and then transmute it into the next tier of item. So if you find the old junk on your adventures, or if you just buy some, you can just kind of transmute it into the better equivalent. There's not a lot of hoodoo about it. You don't need to do a bunch of menuing to do so. It's right there on the item screen. So
nice.
Simple way to make to keep stuff relevant.
Okay. Speaking of relevancy, this is what I wanted to get to, because this is only going to take a little bit, and this is where we're going to fit it in. Motherfucking key items. I hate the concept of key items. I hate it because they get their own special menu, because they never leave your inventory, and you never look at that damn menu again, or there are games where you never have to look at the key items menu because it's simply there to remind you they exist.
Mm-hmm.
Cody, just because you hate Kingdom Hearts doesn't mean you can hate on keys all the time.
I was gonna say, I kind of agree. I'm a lore nerd though, so I will, anytime I get something that is a key item, I will go and I will read the description of it just to see what it is. And I'll also, parts way through the game, and this is Final Fantasy Tactics has kind of ingrained this in me because of their, the Zodiac Brave encyclopedia thing that they have. I will check the key items progressively throughout the game to make sure nothing has changed. So I'm kind of the exception there. But, for the most part, there's really no reason for the key items to exist, in their own separate menu, except to remind the player that, hey, this did something once.
God.
Yeah, I think Dark Souls did it best, Herder, because the key items are there. If you read the description, it'll tell you where exactly this key is supposed to be used, and maybe a little bit of lore about the place, and that's cool. That's how Dark Souls does it. But for most games, no one does that.
My favorite implementation of this actually is Final Fantasy Legend.
Okay.
The reason is because the items take up space in your inventory, and they can be dropped any time, but they can also be reacquired at any time. And you're never quite sure when to get rid of them, because, most items in the world, they still exist after you use them. And being in your inventory reminds you of that, as opposed to having your own separate special backpack where only the important items go. It also increases player engagement and decision making, I think, because even during this last playthrough, I grabbed 2 or 3 air seeds, just because, and then I went underwater and started going through the dungeon and stuff. What the game doesn't tell you is you only need the air seed to enter the underwater zone. Once you get underwater, you can throw your air seed away. It says, okay, they can breathe, and then it's gone. Yeah.
Yes, one air seed is enough to provide oxygen for the entire ocean.
Yeah.
Good job, asshole. You killed all of the fish.
Yep. And I don't know what happens with the Erase 99 if you throw that away in Suzaku's world, but I would assume you'd have to go grab another board, another ROM, and then climb the tower again for more plutonium.
Yeah, probably. I know I threw the ROM away by accident when I had everything, so I had to go all the way back and get that again. Now, and see, I like and disliked it only because having 4 mutants, I had extremely limited inventory space as it was. So these things that were in there, I'm like, do I need to keep this blue sphere from the very first part of the game to where I got the thing? Do I throw it away? Can I throw it away? Does it just stick with me? So, no, there was a good part of the game where I had like 2 inventory spots open, and that was all. Having to like juggle things before I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna throw this away and hope for the best, and then nothing bad happened.
Human murder hobo party wins again.
Yeah, hello, I have twice as much inventory space as you. Good. But Pokemon did it too, but they also had like the PC where you could just kind of like stuff it in there. Mother had Escargot Express where you could stick your key items there.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy Legends is about the only thing I could think of where it's like, okay, do you keep it or do you just throw it on the ground? What do you do?
I don't need this plutonium anymore.
Bunk.
God.
Yeah, another game I can think of that did key items good was, I guess, Resident Evil. I know a lot of people played it, but like, if you use a key item, like you use it on the correct door, okay, the game says you don't need it anymore, and then it disappears from your inventory. That's it.
It doesn't really
Don't
make
need to
like
fiddle with
logical
it.
sense, but no, it makes enough sense to be like, look, dude, word of God, you don't need this anymore, so we're just taking it.
I think it's a convenience thing, because like,
Yeah.
you have like very little inventory space in that game.
Yep.
In all the Resident Evil games, I think.
Yep.
I've only played up through 4, so I can't say for sure, but up through 4 definitely you have limited space. I haven't played any of the new ones.
I remember Yahtzee's review, and he's like, how come I can only carry 9 herbs, but I can carry 108 grenade launcher rounds?
Because science.
Oh, and this was in that same Resident Evil game, because you had 9 slots, and you could hold like 12 grenade launcher rounds in any given slot, or 1 healing herb, because game balance.
Right.
But then armor took up a spot, like an inventory slot, so you're wearing your armor in a pocket of your armor.
Huh, that really doesn't like make sense.
It's like fucking Inception.
Another game that handled key items really well because a lot of things stayed relevant and you had to use them in different scenarios throughout the entire game. This is one of my favorite Super Nintendo games, is Illusion of Gaia, which is in the same series as Soul Blazer and Terranigma. Spiritually, like there's no plot connection, but there's a lot of like subtle connections between them all. But anyway, basically, because a lot of the key items that you get are songs, and so the songs themselves, the main character has a flute, he can play them, and so you have to make sure that you have them. You can store them, I think. It's been a long time, but if you can't, like there's like 30 inventory slots. There's enough to like you never like run out of room ever, but they still take space in your inventory, but you still need to use these key items throughout the game progressively. One of the very first ones that you get becomes one of the things that saves your ass, like right at one of the climaxes. That's actually one of my favorite parts too, because that climax is like hinted at from the very like beginning of the game, and it then finally comes to a head, and then you do it, and it really doesn't make sense what happens, but it's like cool, that did a thing. I'm happy for it.
One day, son, you will need to know the song of Save My Ass.
I mean, pretty much. Your grandmother teaches you this song for, I don't even remember what it was for, like what use it had. But then, like way later in the game, you see posters of this bounty hunter that's been mentioned. At one point, some spoilers, you basically sort of kidnap the princess, but she wants to come with you, and her dad's kind of a dick. So eventually, this bounty hunter's after you guys, and you're in this like futuristic yet also like backwards temple tower thing, and you play the song, and when you do, the statue breathes fire and kills him. Like, I don't really understand why. It's cool that it stayed relevant. I don't get it.
I want to know what is with that meme, because that happened in the original Final Fantasy too, with like the loot. Like, you get the loot from the princess near the beginning of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also the ocarina in Lunar. Like, here, you're going to hold on to this musical instrument, and then 3/4 to 90% of the way through the game, you're going to play it once. And if you don't, you die.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like FF1, you use it to like warp somewhere or get the airship or something, I forget. But, you know, it's trial and error. Like, you know what, I've done everything else, I've killed everything in here, let's play the loot.
Oh, hey, it worked.
God. Lunar felt like a LucasArts adventure game, though, because, like, literally you just die unless you decide to open your inventory and play the ocarina within, like, 10 seconds. God. You remind Luna of who she was before her ascension to godhood.
Oh, cool. I know what to do when that happens. No, I mean, it's something I both like to keep stuff relevant, because you get a bunch of different songs in Illusion of Gaia that, like I said, that all are relevant at different times. It's just that one, specifically, you never use until a random statue sets some guy on fire. And it's never really explained what connection your grandmother has with this like tower or this statue or anything. So, I don't know. Still one of my favorite games, though.
Yeah.
Very dark for that era of gaming. As far as key items go, keep them in the main inventory. Don't give them their own like section. I mean, I know they take up space, but there's no point to have them unless you have a point to have them, I guess.
I mean, because like RPG Maker has that slot, so it's kind of like not easy to get rid of.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah, you need to like have like a custom menu system to remove that part of it, or like you know have
it actually special, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like that ocarina or whatever, because you can play it whenever, and even outside of that final area or whatever in Lunar, it still does something. Maybe it's not useful before then, but like it does something. So it's there.
Yeah, I would say something like that, or having to kind of combat your healing item problem too, or Caro Cola that we're talking about. Have a chalice of some kind that's a key item that holds 3 charges whenever you visit a healing fountain that replicates your Caro Cola. So you have 3 uses of it whenever you go into the dungeon, and it might be relevant to plot, but it also serves like a mechanical function too.
So it functions like an Estus flask.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
You know what would be a great key item? A map.
Yeah.
I like maps. I get lost a lot, so that's one of the reasons I really like Earthgreen Odyssey, because I can just like design the map as I go, so I can, put things down that are relevant to me.
Yeah. And if you're lost, it's your own damn fault.
Yep, exactly.
Wow. Another good key item, like a jukebox.
Yeah.
I like that in FFL 2. You pay 1 gold and you can play the jukebox, which plays any song in the game while you're on that world. And if you move between worlds, like, it goes back to default, but as long as you're in that world, the overworld theme becomes whatever you put in the jukebox.
Nice.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to romp through Armageddon World again with Mary Poppins music.
See, now something like that would be cool too, and because I like tying everything to mechanics, and Pokemon did this, so I have to give them credit, where if you have, there's one song, I think it's is it second or third gen, with the radio, there's a song that you can play that like increases encounter rate. And then there's another song that you can play that decreases encounter rate. So you can have it like affect things in the world depending on what song you're playing too. So if you're playing like a battle theme, or you have more encounters. If you're playing a boss battle theme, you might have less encounters, but whatever you encounter are stronger than normal, or whatever. Just to kind of spread stuff out to actually have some impact in the game too.
Yeah, I know the Poké Gear, at least in Gen 2, it had one that attracted Pokemon. I don't know about repelling them.
There was I don't remember what show it was. I think it was like a really boring, sleepy reading time thing that like lowered your encounter rate slightly. If I remember right, I could be making that up too. It's been a long time since I played Gen 2.
Hello, this is your president, John Henry Eden.
Man, I remember in Gen 2, like there was a radio show just to wake up the Snorlax. We all know that Snorlax.
Yep.
Fucking Snorlaxes being roadblocks.
Fucking Snorlax keeps blocking the goddamn path.
And because we can't just throw a Pokeball at him, no, we have to wake him up before we attempt to capture him because we're humane.
Beat him to an inch of his life, then throw a Pokeball at him.
Yeah, I just legitimately never understood if you still have one blocking the area, if you have a Master Ball, why you can't just be like, get in the ball.
Because that's slavery.
But beating them within an inch of its life and then capturing it is okay.
That's fair game.
Pokemon not making sense since 1995.
Yeah.
But so one thing I did want to touch on real quick too, coming back to I guess attack items for a minute, because I did forget to mention this. There is something that I did, which was a huge pain in the ass, but I did it. I'll give a very brief overview. I'm not going to go on a full-on Red Mage rant, but I ran through Final Fantasy VII doing an item-only run, meaning up until the point where I got Steel, like I could still play the game normally. Once I got Steel, however, I was able to use it to steal items from monsters, sell, and I could then at that point only heal with potions and high potions, etc., and only attacks with grenades, Molotovs, etc. So those damage items do scale with your attack power. So it's usually good not to have Magislate Materia equipped because those lower your attack stats. Plus, you couldn't use it anyway, aside from Steel. And then also, because you didn't want Steel to gain enough AP to level up, because then it became Mug, which deals damage, which is a no-no, a lot of times you had to steal from enemies and then run away. And then steal from enemies and then run away. Which is a huge pain in the ass to get started, but items stayed more or less relevant for me throughout the entire game. Grenades basically became my attack. Molotovs were a fire-based one that I used against enemies weak to fire. Then up until that point, it was pretty much those two with a couple others until you hit the point where you can go to Wutai, because then you can buy the items that cast like Ice 3, Lightning 3, and Fire 3, and then
Red Mage?
What I learned in boating school is...
What I learned in boating school is...
Oh god, we're gonna have to edit this out.
Oh no!
Let's type in the thing. Oh no, he disconnected. Fuck. Alright. I'll pretend to be Red Mage for a little bit. Okay, so when you get to Wutai, I can buy all the Fire 3s, Ice 3s, and whatever 3s. And they're basically all the strongest spells, but in item form, and they're like really good. And then it becomes really easy by then. But before then, it's a pain in the ass.
Oh, man, Red Mage. I can only imagine the pain you went through on such a run.
Yes, it's very painful. Especially this brand new cough that I just got for like 5 seconds ago. God damn it.
Your accent changed quite rapidly, Red Mage.
I guess so.
Oh, jeez Louise. Alright, he's coming back.
Oh, okay, he's back.
Yeah, I'm on my phone. Yeah, my power flashed and my router's resetting. I apologize.
Okay, so you were talking about Wutai.
Oh, that's where it cut off? Okay. Now, Wutai is basically where the game became doable, because that's where you got the items that could cast Fire 3, Lightning 3, and Ice 3. So at that point, once you could stock up on those, grinding enemies and their bodies for money to just continue to get grenades because of the cheapest, most effective resource available, to get the money to buy the Fire 3s, etc. The game became a lot easier at that point. It's still kind of annoying, but it basically kind of became almost a speed run because you didn't want to waste items on fighting regular enemies. So you kind of saved everything for the bosses. It was an interesting challenge, and it was a lot of fun, but it was also a huge pain in the ass, too. So,
so was Sephiroth weak to any of the items, or did you just kind of burn through all your Fire 3, Lightning 3, and Ice 3 because you had them?
Yeah, I may try 99 of each before I went to fight him. But, no, yeah, he's not weak to anything, so it was basically just bombarding over and over and over again with them. And the fight took a long time, but thankfully, because I also had 99 of all the healing items, everybody was okay. I also could have, but did not use the W item materia, so I didn't ever, double item ever. I thought about it, but I was like, nah, it kind of goes against the spirit of the challenge, so.
Okay. I liked how Final Fantasy Legend did attack items, and not just the first one, but, all the way up through 3, where, you would find, a nuke, and you could use it, and it would be, a devastatingly powerful attack, but you only had one in the game. In the first Final Fantasy Legend, you also had, Missile, which you could buy, and because of the strict inventory management of Missile, where you're going to spend a precious space on 3 missiles that were going to last for 3 attacks.
Yep. Inventory management makes items you can make items a lot more relevant, as opposed to, I think I mentioned this last time with Final Fantasy IV, you can have 99 stacks of an item, and then you can have 5 stacks of 99 stacks of an item in your inventory. So, kind of got away from that. But having limited item resources is definitely a good way to do that, too.
That item-only run sounds like the planning and execution must have been top-notch, but you only had 5 items you could use for the whole damn game.
Yeah, pretty much. You get some other cool stuff, too, but for the most part, it gets really boring because you're doing the same thing every single fight. But yeah, basically, if anybody's interested in doing it, basically the one thing you need to do is after you get Steel and you fight the boss and all that stuff, you come out into the train graveyard. There are ghosts there, which you can steal a ghost hand from, which drain MP, which does nothing for you, but they sell for 500, I think. So that's going to be your first farming point. So I'll let you start there if anybody is stupid enough like me to attempt this challenge.
So for that challenge, I know you said that with Steel, you didn't want the AP to get too high for it to become Mug. Did you at any point have to sell your Steel materia and buy a new one to reset the AP?
Yep. Yep, sure did. It was most of the way through the game. I managed to get away without doing that, but I think it was sometime on disc 2 I had to do that. So. The other option, of course, is if it gets there, then you could, I guess, fight enemies. Don't ever steal anything. Use the money that you get to keep buying stuff until you get enough AP for it to master, then split into a new Steel materia, which would be awful. But I also did that for a run where I got 48 Counter-Strike materias, so whenever I would get hit, every character would counterattack 16 times. There's only one in the game, so you have to just progressively master each one. By the way, it's awful. I don't recommend anybody ever do that. Ever.
Oh, God.
Okay.
FF7 has so many weird, little intricacies if you want to do them. Like Vincent's gun that goes up by 1 damage every time you kill an enemy with it. And you can't just shoot the enemy, you have to be the killing blow.
Yeah.
There was some guy on YouTube I saw, he did it, and it did 63,000 damage every shot.
Yeah, that sounds about right. There's the materia system, though, is one of my favorites. And this is kind of item related, so I'm going to count it.
All right.
But because like if you, for example, you have like fire materia, and if you have that paired with like all, then it targets everybody. If you have a second fire materia paired with quadra magic, now when you cast fire, it will now hit everybody 4 times. If you have a third fire materia paired with turbo or like MP boost or magic boost, I forget what it's called, it costs 1.5 or twice as much, but it does cast it 4 times on everybody for 50% more damage. So you can chain boosts all to the same type of thing to be really, really good and specialized in that area if you wanted to. Which is cool. I like shit like that.
I finally had to get through Deldris's head why I liked Final Fantasy Tactics so much, but I didn't like Bravely Default, because like with Bravely Default you have to cheese like that. The game requires you to do that kind of stuff. But in FFT, the way that the metaphor that worked for him is like it's a D&D party. With FFT, you aren't forced to take any abilities that your characters you don't think would have.
Right.
Yeah. So as much as I love that kind of cheesing, I want my guys going through the game with their abilities. Yeah, except for Weegraph. Fucking Weegraph.
Yeah. No, fuck that fight.
But, if I'm willing to restart a game 3/4 of the way through to beat Weegraph, you've made a good game.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. But yeah, if you want to go up to, the final boss, and you are a chemist armed with potions and a gun, and you're like, I'm going to take this motherfucker down, more power to you.
Yeah. If you were dumb enough to let TG Sid die, you can still beat the game.
Yep. Although how you managed to do that, I do not know.
Yeah, it's a feat getting him to die. Yeah.
Yes, he's so fucking overpowered. Okay, but that's all that I had for the item only run. There's no guides for it on GameFAQs. I've thought about writing one, just so there's something out there for anybody who's just completely and utterly bored. But I'm not 15 anymore on summer vacation, so I'll probably never attempt it again. So.
Oh man, that's the one thing I miss about being old is fucking summer vacation.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We got anything else, or are we good?
Should we talk about like equipment or something? Because like Red Mage talked a little bit about that.
We can. Was there anything that the rpgmg had asked?
Oh, they asked a bunch, but we're at 90 minutes right now, so I didn't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for equipment, like swords are the best thing to upgrade. Armor is the second best, I guess, most of the time.
I don't know. I usually go armor first because that's less resources that you have to spend coming back to town to heal, generally speaking. But that's just me.
It depends on the game too, because like some games make it easier to like kill the monsters, I guess,
right.
with a better weapon than if you have armor.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like for example, Final Fantasy Legend, where you can kill everything easily if you have the King Sword.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is one key item that does not stay around.
Yeah, sad face.
How tragic. Yep.
Still better than the Keyblade.
Yeah, no, with like a Paper Mario type system where things are tightly balanced, like I would probably go for attack simply because the enemies almost always have like 9 HP. So if you do 2 damage, then it takes 5 attacks. But if you do 3 damage, then suddenly you're saving 2 turns.
Right, that's true.
It all depends on which way it scales. So with armor, generally you want armor because you're going to be attacked more. And doing 26 damage as opposed to 25 doesn't mean a whole lot.
Yeah. That is true. Yeah, I wasn't considering like those types of games like Paper Mario where everything is very, very closely balanced. I was just kind of thinking the generic RPG. But no, in those situations, absolutely, attack is far more vital, especially if there's ways that you can like help mitigate damage by actively pushing A at the right time.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, my preference is weapon first because the faster you kill the enemy, the less damage you'll probably take. Most of the time, that's my thinking for it. The
Yeah.
only time I'd prefer raising the armor is if like there's a good effect, noticeable effect for it. Because like I'm not gonna raise the armor right away if like it's only gonna take like 20 out of the 200 damage away, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
But then if you've got
Like,
the
it-
dragon armor that, halves elemental damage or nullifies elemental damage.
That has fucking goddamn like anti-element effects. So of course
Yeah.
I'll get that.
Yeah, no, that was great.
That's the one case I'm like, okay, I'll get the armor first because it makes me not dead to everything.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, so you're talking about like upgrading your equipment as in like buying new stuff at a new town.
More or less.
Okay, so if I waltz into a town, then yeah, you gotta look. Like, if there's dragon armor, then you gotta go for dragon armor. But then, like, in Dragon Quest, if you get, like, a whip or a boomerang, and it allows you to attack everything, then I gotta go for that first.
That's true.
But if it's just, axe plus 2, that's just a bigger axe, then it's not worth it, really. I usually go for the armor at that point.
Yeah, I can
really
see that.
depends. It really depends. Because, like, I'm just going to say FF Legends again because, haha, I didn't know that using the Uzi was more effective than the sword early on.
Yeah.
But yeah. Boy.
Yep.
Yeah, no, weapons and armor that have effects are generally cooler than stuff that don't. Like Dragon Quest has the Falcon Sword that lets you hit twice. Has way lower attack power than most of the swords that you get after it. But once you hit like a certain amount of just strength, the Falcon Sword just does more because you get to hit twice. So stuff like that is super cool. And then just static number increases are far less cool, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's about it. Maybe that's how we should solve the item problem. Make the items cooler. Like what Red Mage said, like a physical-based fire attack like the Molotov, that could work. That could be a thing. We can expand on that.
Yeah. The more we can tie it into, like, stuff people recognize, the better. So you have, like, the fire Molotov and then the ice Molotov, which makes no sense, but whatever.
Right.
The electric Molotov, it's just a water balloon with electricity on it.
Yeah, like someone rubbed it against their head and threw it.
But no, I mean that's kind of the rule of cool should definitely apply to items. I think don't make them boring, make them interesting in every capacity. Just don't make them too interesting where the game is too complicated to function. And kind of what was mentioned with one of the questions too. I think one of the few we didn't touch on is like the item descriptions. If you can't fit what the item does in the description menu, you need to tone back on what it does a little bit. But also to answer that question, I prefer hard numbers in that I want it to say heals 10% or heals 50 hit points. Heals some hit points. To me, I'm like, is it even worth it to buy? Do I waste money on this? And it's some hit points is 5, So
Yeah.
I prefer hard numbers in my descriptions, but that's just me.
Okay, see, I disagree with you because I like to disguise a bit of the gamey aspects of the game, and all you have to do to figure out how much HP it restores is to buy one and use it. Now, do you trust the developers to balance it? I would trust the game developer to balance the game properly and make this high potion worth the extra cost. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe they're assholes, but I'll find out the second I purchase one.
That's fair.
Yeah. Right. This potion cures Curaga amount of HP.
This one will undo even the most grievous wounds. Plus 41 HP. Well, shit.
I guess my fighter was dead when he got hit instead of having a grievous wound. Because that didn't do anything.
That'll heal that lolly mage earlier just fine.
That's true.
Not big, bulky fighter guy.
Yeah. Or they're all the items descriptions are tailored for like townspeople, so their grievous wound is like when they stub their toe.
heals all your HP. Commoners 3 HP.
Oh, dude, how badass would that be? Like, you go to the equivalent of Valhalla, and it says for minor owies, and then it gives you plus 500 HP, because that's a minor owie in Valhalla.
That's really funny, and something I kind of want to do now.
Please.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Just have a potion in the early game. Go like, will heal most grievous of wounds, heals 3 HP, and then by the end game, heals minor paper cuts, heals 5,000 HP or something.
Just based on where it is that you're buying it and that merchant's description of his own items.
In a world of gods and demons, even paper cuts are deadly.
They hurt, man.
Wow. A paper cut that does 5,000 damage. Great.
Yeah. All right. I'm pooped. I can barely see straight. Are you guys good?
Yeah, that's pretty much all I could think of.
This is a good cast, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it.
I think we covered enough. And if we haven't, we'll try again. Like a part 2 of items sometime in the future.
Sure. I'd be down with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we messed up, we'll hear about it in the thread, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. In that case, thank you all for listening. This has been the RPG Maker General Podcast or the rpgmgp. This is Cody. We'll see you all next time.
This is Red Mage. I'm not wearing pants.
And this is Blue Sky Robin going away now. God damn it, Red Mage. Oh, that reminds me. We haven't talked about crafting yet. So I hate crafting in most of the
Robin.
games
No.
Hey, Cody,
We are not doing this.
Cody!
Robin!